Hey everyone, this is Phoenix, and today I'm going to go ahead and do a video to show off some of the add-ons that I've been using for Elder Scrolls Online. If you haven't been into the add-on scene much for this game yet, there are a ton of very useful add-ons available already. Many of them I consider to be more or less essential. They just add a lot of information and functionality to the game that you might expect to have been there, but is available if you take the time to set up the add-ons to see it. So I'm just going to go through and describe the ones I use. I will link to them in the description and also put a time sync on there so you can jump right to that part of the video to see how to set them up and everything. I'm also going to try and set up a config file that you can download. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out yet, but that you can just copy over and have your interface automatically set up the way you see it in the video, and then go from there. Couple things to be aware of while I go through this. All of the add-ons are available at the website is ESOUI.com, and they have an add-on manager that I recommend you get called Minion. When you go to install the ones that I describe in the video, you just will go to the Find New tab in the Minion AddOn Manager and type the name in there, and then you can just hit the install button right next to the add-on to get it set up. And every time you then run the Minion, like every time before you run the game, just run Minion, it will update any add-ons that actually have updates available. So that's really useful to have. And the other thing about add-ons, once you've installed them and you re-log into the game to initialize them the first time, all of the options to configure them for the ones that do have options are in the same place that all your game options are. So if you hit escape, go into your settings, you'll see all the additional add-ons have their options there as well. And I'll go briefly through each of those for the ones that do have options while I go through the video. So that being said, I will go ahead and get started here. I'm going to break this up into sort of user interface add-ons, ones like the Minimap and the health, magic, and stamina bar, and buff, debuff, scrolling combat text, stuff you see on the screen. I'll deal with that kind of main stuff first, and then I'll talk about some of the other useful but maybe not immediately apparent ones, and then sort of go down the list from there. And so if there's any questions about any of the add-ons, how to set them up, what you can do with them, just post them in the comments, and I will try and get to those. And I will try and put instructions for getting the settings template copied over if I do end up getting that working. Like I said, I'm going to have to experiment with that a little bit. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get started here. So two of the first add-ons that I'm going to cover here, which are core add-ons of this UI that I've put together, are the Azure AddOn and the srender or srendar add-on, both by Keith, and respectively they handle the resource bars, the health, magic, and stamina bars, and the target bar. Azure handles those things, and srendar handles the buff and debuff tracking, and there's a ton of options for each of those. I'm just going to go through some of those really quick here. I'm not going to go through every single thing. You can actually get this set up as a baseline template with the PhinixUI configuration files. If you install all the all of the add-ons in this video, there's another video in the description that I made which will show you how to actually download my template files to make it look the way you see in the video. So, but really quick, I'm going to unlock the frames for Azure. And you can see it lets you pretty much move anything in your UI anywhere you want. Most of the settings have to do with what displays on these various health, magic, and stamina bars and target bars. I've got the font looking really nice, and for my resources I have it just show the resource. So if I had 2,000 health, it would just show 2,000. I don't really need to see my percent, it's meaningless, but for the target I have it show the value and the percent. That way you can actually tell when you're in an execute phase and your abilities are going to do more damage or what have you. And then let me go ahead and unlock srendar real quick here, and you can see that's got these anchors that you can put for buffs and debuffs, and the way I've got it set up is kind of a squared off look with the interface here. I have my short duration buffs, like my shields, my heals, stuff that I use with my spells, will stack on the right hand side here up, and it actually has the name of the spell and a visual cue of how much time you have left. You can make them just icons, but I find that this is the best visual cue. We'll stack on the right here for buffs, and on the left is debuffs. They work the same way. And the shortest things, the things that are going to run out quickest, are going to be on the top, so it'll stack down as you're running out of stuff, which is really cool. It'll automatically reshuffle stuff. And I have all the buffs. This one is really cool, actually, with this add-on. You can put all the buff icons, and these, as you see, I've toggled just be icons over your target. What this is particularly useful for is, say you mouse over another player character, you can instantly see their faction will be over here on the right. If they're a werewolf or vampire, you can see the icon for that. Any PvP buffs that they have, any food buffs, their Mundus Stone, if you know what those look like, all the information about everything that character's got on them is instantly available to you up here. That can be really useful in various situations, not the least of which being PvP, is all up there. And then my long duration buffs, mostly like food buff type stuff, will actually stack up here, and you can mouse over those and it'll tell you what they are. And they stack towards the left. You can opt to show your vampire status, your Mundus Stone boons on you. I personally don't need to see that I have those because I kind of know that I have them, but food buff is definitely useful because it shows the time remaining underneath it. So that is Azure and srendar, and those are core components of this particular layout. I highly recommend you get those both, and at the end of the video, take a look at the one in the link to get them set up how you see in the video, because it's a great baseline template to start with. Another key component of this user interface is the bar you see along the top. That one is Wicked's framework by Wicked, and it is the one that's showing the current real-world time, the zone name, your level, experience, the horse timers, how much bag space, crafting research. Like right now I have one item out of 3 that I could possibly be researching on my woodworking, which is telling me I should probably go and start 2 others going. That is just a fraction of the things you can actually have that set up to track. I mean, you can set all the different crafting researches to track. You can have your name and stuff show. If you have if you're a vampire or werewolf that you're leveling, you can have it show the experience bars for those. Tons and tons of options. Some of them I turn off because I actually have other mods that handle loot notification and gold notification, but tons and tons and tons of things you can turn on and off. It would be worth it just to kind of pour through here. A lot of stuff in here that you can have it track. And a lot of other add-ons actually rely on that framework to do what they do, so I definitely recommend Wicked's framework as an essential add-on. Another core add-on with this interface is the scrolling battle text add-on. Any good interface for an MMO definitely needs that information. The one I use is actually Pocket's scrolling battle text. And I'll show off how I've got it customized, because it has a lot of options for fonts and whether you want to show icons and what sides and how they curve. I've tried out just about all of the scrolling text add-ons, Foundry Tactical Combat, LUI. I personally feel that, especially with the Azure and srendar handling the buffs and debuffs and bars, the overall look of the interface is just better with Pocket scrolling battle text. I can get it to look more the way I want than any of the other add-ons. I could just never really get those to look quite the way I wanted. But as you can see here, incoming stuff is going to be on the left. Ultimate builds are tracked. Mana, stamina recovery is tracked. Damage outgoing is on the right. Crits, as you can see, pop up and stick, just like you would expect. And it's just a really smooth design and fits really nicely in with the layout of this this particular UI. It also gives you other information, like switching bars. You get information like that there of the passives that you've gained. It's like an announcement section. So overall, it's probably in my mind the best of all of the scrolling combat text add-ons. So definitely recommend Pocket's scrolling battle text. And of course, no MMO interface would be complete without a functional damage meter. For that, I recommend the Recount add-on by Fein and MacGuffin. There is a ton of really useful options to configure it in this game. As you can see, it's not actually showing right now. And the way I've set it up is that when you enter combat, it will remain hidden but minimized. It will actually still show you what your current DPS is doing, what your heals per second is doing, but it won't be intrusive on your screen until combat ends, and then you see it. It'll pop up for about 10 seconds and show you a summary of what your abilities did, whether things crit. So, and then it will automatically disappear after a certain time. You can increase that time if you want, but you can also bind a key to hide it and to show it. And so you can actually, it will remember the data for the last fight, and you can go over the list here and just see what your abilities are doing. This is useful for, you know, just seeing like what new specs, what kind of damage each ability is doing reliably, if you have certain passives that you have toggled on or off, to kind of get an idea of where your damage is coming from. You don't have to worry about other people seeing this who use the add-on. It can only track, based on the way that the interface is coded in this game, your own damage. And so there is no threat of sort of DPS elitism in this game, which is kind of refreshing. And it has a lot of other information as well. Like if you hit R, it'll reset all the data, but if you hit M, it will actually toggle to your total damage done since the last reset. Damage taken last fight, total damage taken since the last reset, healing done last fight, healing since reset, healing taken since last reset, and then the whole combat log, which is just really cool. Lots of information available, and you can set it on the one you want to show by default when combat ends, and then hide it, and it'll pop back up next time you go into combat. So really useful for benchmarking your own abilities and seeing what kind of damage you're able to put out. I highly recommend Recount by Fein and MacGuffin. Another core add-on I recommend you get is Loot Drop Continued, originally by Pocket and now maintained by Flagrick. And what this add-on is good for, I personally like to play the game with auto loot turned on. So like when you loot something, it will put everything in there automatically in your inventory without asking you which ones you want to loot or making you hit the loot all button. It makes things a lot faster when you're running through dungeons, but you can't always see what you looted. So that's where this add-on comes in. Loot Drop Continued will actually show a nice list over here on the left, is where I put it, with a drop shadowed name of what you looted in the icon, and it'll stack up as you loot things, and then it'll fade out. And the things that you looted first will fade out first, and the stack will kind of shuffle down. It's very streamlined and well designed. So here, let me go ahead and grab some stuff from these crates, and you can kind of see how it works. You see how it slides in like that, animated style? It's got that cool drop shadow, and then it will gradually start to fade out, as you can see there. Very cool add-on. Lets you see at a glance what you're looting, and I definitely recommend playing with auto loot turned on and to get this Loot Drop Continued add-on by Pocket and Flagrick. Another core add-on to this interface is the Minimap you see up at the top right. That is ZRMM modified by AddOn, and I prefer this particular Minimap for a lot of reasons. Mostly it's very customizable. You can change the pin size, and it will display the pins from any other add-on. As you can see, I've got my alchemy pins showing up there from Harvest Map. It shows your active tracking quests. It will show, if you're in a group, the location of your group members. And you can actually set a default zoom level for out in the world or dungeons and towns. You can also keybind the zoom in and zoom out feature, so you can actually just really quickly hit a button to zoom out so you can see more, or zoom in so you get more details. It's really helpful, as I'm sure you know from every other MMO. It's almost essential to have a mini-map. It lets you get your bearings without having to bring up the kind of clunky in-game map, which is in the middle of your screen, and you can't really do much else while it's up, to see where you're going and what is around your location at a glance. So definitely recommend the ZRMM modified by AddOn. Another just cosmetic add-on that you see up there at the top right on top of the minimap is ESO Locate by Siang CXQ. And like I said, I'm just kind of a fan of lots of information, so that one may or may not have a specific use other than just giving you the XY coordinates of your character on the map as you move around. It can be useful for reporting things to mod authors or just making a note of where on the map that you found something. Just kind of aesthetically seems like a mini-map should have a coordinate system showing, which is why I do recommend getting the ESO Locate by Siang CXQ. Another core add-on for this interface is Wicked's Quest Tracker. That's the one that you see right here underneath the minimap. And I really like this because it has a couple of really neat features. Like you can collapse all of the quests that you have by zone. It will also show a tally of how many quests you have in that zone. And the quests are colored based on how much above or below your level they are. So if you're like a couple levels above them, they'll be green. They turn, you know, grayish white if you're over leveled for them. And it's just really helpful to be able to set your active quest really easily. If you're in a dungeon and you get a quest, you can collapse all of the zones and see really intuitively what the dungeon quest is that you want to make active. So really helpful, and lots of customization features. Again, I've got in this interface, which if you download, configured to basically fit really nice underneath the minimap, like you can see, but you can do a lot with it. So that one is Wicked's Quest Tracker. Another very useful map-related add-on is the Harvest map by Shiny and Charlacran. And if you look at the map here, that is the one that shows all these little tiny colored pins. I have actually chosen custom colors for that. You can do that in their options. Basically what this add-on does is every time you harvest, say like a woodworking node, a clothing node, a mining node, etc., it will add a pin to your map with a custom icon that you found it there. So to me, that's a really cool way of seeing sort of like where your character has been. Like as you can see, I've explored the heck out of this map. And it does have features to import databases. A lot of people are doing like a sharing community thing with the pins where you can actually download a database that has every single pin and location of a resource in the game and have it imported to your map. I don't personally recommend that, just because the main reason I like this add-on is because it helps you get a feel for where your character has been. You have discovered that, so it's not like it's just being added to your map, you know, gratuitously without having to actually explore those areas, and it lets you see kind of what areas you haven't explored yet, whereas downloading all the pins, you know, you're going to not have any clue where you have and haven't been. So I do recommend this add-on. I don't recommend getting the databases for it. Something else cool about it is you can individually toggle off all of the kinds of pins that it tracks. So let's say I was on a treasure chest hunt and I didn't really need a bunch of clutter from the other things. I can actually go, when you bring up your map, this icon right here, this tab is the filters tab. Click on that, and the add-on adds all these categories. Like you can disable metalworking, clothing, enchanting, alchemy, woodworking, solvent, fish pens. Those are all harvest map, and just show, here's the chests that I found in the zone. As I said, I've been all the heck over the zone. And then you can just kind of plot a course and follow the path, the quickest route to all those chests, and see if they have respawn for you. Same thing if you were on an alchemy hunt. Like this is my alchemy character. And it's also really cool for alchemy is if you hover over them, it tells you what specifically was found there. Those tend to remain relatively constant, at least in my experience. So if you're looking for a particular alchemy ingredient, it can kind of help to see where certain things spawn. Like water hyacinth tends to always spawn around water. So you can really quickly go to where the stuff you want is at, and that is just incredibly useful. Also, the ZRMM Minimap will track all of your custom pins from any other add-on, which is also amazing. So definitely get the Harvest Map add-on by Shiny and Charlacran. A couple of really cool map-related add-ons, the Sky Shards and Lore Books add-ons by Garkin. These two add-ons are very similar in what they do. Basically, they add, as you would imagine, all the locations of the Sky Shards and the Lore Books on your map. And as you can see here, the ones you have not yet found are actually showing as black icons. And if you bring up the map and you go over to your filters, that's this icon right here, You can actually opt to show collected lore books, which you see turn white when you find them. I actually prefer them to just disappear once I found them. That way I can kind of see at a glance on the map really easily without a lot of clutter what is still left to collect. And then sky shards, same thing. So a lot of people might consider that a cheat, I guess. Personally, I don't have a hard time reconciling the notion that there's maps for sale from caravanners. Plus, if I'm looking to test out a spec or some abilities, and I need some skill points right away, I don't want to necessarily have to go just randomly exploring. It kind of, to me, that almost lowers the experience of randomly exploring. When I have to do it to find something. I like to randomly explore, but I like to do it just for the sake of randomly exploring, not because I have to randomly explore to find this specific thing that I need because I want to level a particular weapon skill and don't have enough points and don't want to spend a ton of money to respec. So, I mean, it's useful to me. Your mileage may vary, but I personally prefer both those add-ons. The lore books, they can actually spawn in up to 3 or 4 locations in a zone, so you may or may not find a given book. If you hover over them, it tells you what they are in a particular location. But once you do find one in one of the locations they spawn, all of the pins for that particular book will go away, so you'll know you have that book. So those are the Sky Shards and Lore Books add-ons by Garkin, and I do highly recommend those. Another cool map add-on is the Lost Treasure add-on by Crazy Dutch Guy, and this is my favorite treasure map add-on. Basically, add-ons that show the location of the treasure for these maps. Main reason is not only because you have a lot of customization options, like the icons you want to use and so forth. This particular add-on will actually it gives you the option to only show the locations on the map that you currently have treasure chest or treasure maps in your inventory for. It won't show every single treasure map. I kind of like the idea of that. So if I double click on this treasure map, it gives you the visual cue. A lot of the times these are really unhelpful, but if you go over to the map, as you can see, I don't have every single treasure map location showing in the zone, but it does show the one that I currently just read, the one that I currently have in my inventory. And it will show any of the ones you have in your inventory. If you had 5 in your inventory, there'll be 5 maps. But that's really useful, especially if you just get stumped on those pictures. You can get a quick visual cue, and again, you can toggle these things on and off. That's another thing I really like about this add-on, is the other treasure map add-ons don't have on the map filters tab the option to completely turn them off. You can actually leave it turned off until you get stumped. So that's really cool too. So that is the Lost Treasure add-on by Crazy Dutch Guy. And another cool map add-on is the Undiscovered add-on. That one is by DeWatt. And if you look on the map here, you see these black X's. That is Undiscovered. And basically, if you hover over them, it's going to tell you, like, here is the Shadow Mundus Stone. Some of these are probably going to be way shrines, like here's a Seaside Sanctuary way shrine. Basically, it will tell you all of the locations you have yet to visit, places of interest on your map that you have yet to visit. And once you find them, those X's go away and become the appropriate icon, like here is a way shrine icon. Again, I have no problem with that. It's very unintrusive to me. It's the X marks the spot, kind of a mark on the map, doesn't have this big flashy icon. And I don't have a hard time, imagining that I was able to buy a map from some Khajiit trader who did a lot of scouting and knows where these interest points are on a map. Personally, I'm a fan of as much information as possible without being intrusive, so I definitely do recommend also the Undiscovered add-on by DeWatt. Lastly, probably one of, if not my favorite, map-related add-on. This one is called Harvin's Custom Map Pins by Harvin. And what this basically does is, as you can see at the bottom right now, I have it bound to X. It lets you bind a key to place a custom map pin. So I'll just do a quick example. Say I found something really interesting over here. I can hit my keybind, which is X in my case, type in something in the description, and hit accept, and it will actually add a custom pin, which will, when you mouse over it, tell you whatever it was you typed there. You can type in cool grind location, cool looking vista, anything you want. Amazing add-on. If you click on it, you have the option to edit what it says. You have the option to change the color, which is really neat. You can make it whatever color, so you can actually color code like places of interest that look cool. You can make this color. Grind locations, you can make a color, etc. You can make it any color you want. Another really amazing feature, this is something that is new with this add-on. If you click on it, you have the option to share via link. Now, what that essentially does is, imagine you are in a guild and you're coordinating a group get-together. You can actually make a pin on your map, and then in guild chat you click on this and hit share via link, and it will put this little link, as you see here, custom map pin, in whatever chat that you're currently talking in. Anyone who has this add-on can then click on that pin, and it will give them a prompt, do you want to add this to your map? So you can instantly share any of your custom pins with anyone who has this add-on. Absolutely amazing feature. You can just imagine the possibilities. I mean, you're not in a group, you don't see the group markers, and you want to show people in the zone where you're at instantly. Since there's no coordinate system available in the UI where you can see coordinates as you mouse over the map, you can just make a custom pin and send the link in chat, and anyone who has the add-on can get it. Really, really cool feature. I can't recommend enough that you get this one. It's very reminiscent of Cartographer from the WoW days. This one is Harvin's custom map pins. Another really cool cosmetic type of add-on is the clock that you see at the bottom left. That one is Tamriel Standard Time by Tix, and what that does is it shows you, as the title says, the current time in Tamriel. I've already got Wicked's framework tracking the real world time, but it's helpful sometimes when you're in dungeons, or just for the sake of immersion, to know what time it is actually in the world. Sometimes different events happen at different times, so definitely useful information. And perhaps even more useful is the moon phase tracking, which has been added to this. Helpful if you're trying to get vampirism or lycanthropy, to know when the vampires and the werewolves come out. So really useful. It's got a lot of customization options. I've got it tweaked in the interface to have a really streamlined font and be kind of out of the way down there, so definitely get the Tamriel Standard Time by Tix. Another really cool and useful add-on is the Soft Cap Info by Shiny. By default in the game, when you have a stat that's overcharged, which basically means at a given level your character has a soft cap on how high you can get a particular stat to go with enchants and skill points and whatnot, and if you go over that, you can still raise it higher, but you'll get diminishing returns where you end up putting 20 points into it and you only end up getting 18 points out of it, and that gap increases the higher you overcharge a stat. This add-on will actually show you not just your current value, but also what the soft cap is and how many points that you have gone over it, and then you can do some quick math to subtract the cap from your current value and find out how different that number is from how many points over the cap you've actually spent in it, and it'll tell you how many points you're wasting. Like, for example, at vet level 4, veteran level 4, my magic recovery when I'm not in combat is soft capped at 156. Now, I currently, with passives and gear and what have you, have got that at 159. And if you look at the difference, it's telling me that I have spent in this 3 points over the cap. And if I subtract 156 from 159, you see that that's actually 3 points. I haven't lost any points by doing that. Now, with this one, spell resistance, it's telling me that I've spent 44 points over the soft cap of 1690, and that I'm currently at 1732. So a little bit of quick math will show you that I've spent 44 points over cap, but my final value is actually only giving me 42 points. So I've actually wasted 2 stat points, which I'm not really very concerned about. But it is a quick way to actually see how many points are being, could be shuffled over somewhere else. Mostly the ones to be concerned about are obviously magic, health, and stamina. Those are the ones where you can actually shuffle points easily with skill point allotments, and also those are going to be your primary gear stats as well. And so, for example, with this one, max magic of my soft cap is 1888. I'm currently at 1997. It's telling me that I've spent 115 points in this stat over the soft cap. But for the 115 I've spent in that, I've only actually ended up getting 109 points. So basically, by overcharging by 115, which is a little high, I am actually losing 6 stat points. So I could probably reallocate a little bit over to something else and get some of those points back. Otherwise, you're kind of just wasted on the diminishing returns. So really useful information to have. That is soft cap info by Shiny. And on this same skill sheet page, you see there's like actually a lot more information on this than you get by the default game. This is another add-on. This one is called Harvin's Extended Stats. Again, this is by Harvin, and it adds a lot more information, like the specific resistances that you currently have. Like I'm a vampire character, so I have a ring that has 100 flame resistance on, or 1,000 fire resistance on it, to help offset that weakness, and that will actually show up on here, as will my focus rating, my amount of bypassing the enemy's spell resist, my attack power, magic and stamina and health recovery out of combat, critical resistance, all these other informations. Some of these are 0 because I don't have anything in them. Some of them I think are 0 because the game interface doesn't actually allow you to access that information in this current patch. They, I think, are going to open some of that up in the future, but a lot of this information just isn't available in the original game. So definitely useful to pick up Harvin's Extended Stats. One of my other favorite add-ons out there is Spent Skill Points by Shiny. And as you can see, what it's doing is telling you how many skill points you currently have available to spend out of how many total skill points your character has accumulated. And not only does it show you that information, but it will actually break down tree by tree how many skill points you have already invested in each branch of each tree. So you can see right here, I've invested 39 skill points total in my class skills, 18 in Dark Magic, 7 in Daedric, 14 in Storm, all the way down the list. 16 in weapons. I can actually look at a glance and see there's 12 in destruction and 4 in restoration. Incredibly useful, especially when you're planning a new spec. You can kind of tally up really fast what you can reallocate from where, and go to a site like I think it's ESO Head, yeah, has a really cool skill calculator, and know just how much you have to work with without having to sit there and actually add in your head everything you got. I know I have 164 to work with right now, so definitely essential. That's Spent Skill Points by Shiny. One absolutely essential add-on for this game to me is Wicked's Outfitter, and this one is got a little bit of a learning curve, but it is definitely worth it. Basically, what this add-on lets you do is set keybinds. You get 12 macro keybinds, and it lets you set a function so that at the press of a key, for example, you can change your entire skill layout. So say you're in a dungeon and you have on your number 1 bar you've got a set of skills that are really good for AoE, and then you've got a separate set of skills for that weapon type that's really good for single target bosses, and you want to be able to swap between those, but you don't want to have to stop, and try and type out to the group, hey, wait a second, let me, and hope that we don't go into combat, so that you can't change your abilities and slow everything down, especially in trials. This add-on lets you basically hit a button and switch your entire gear and your entire skill layout. Gear you can also do. You can actually set gear sets, so you can actually just hit a button and switch to all your PvP gear, and then hit another button and switch back to all your PvE gear. You do have to be out of combat, but still essential to be able to, and you can get 12 of them, so you can imagine in a game where skill layouts and combinations need to adapt to the content, being able to just hit buttons and instantly handle that without having to dig through your interface is very, very helpful. So what you'll need to do with this one is go into your controls, your key bindings, scroll down to where you see Wicked's framework macro window, and you need to bind definitely the toggle macro window because you're going to need that to set up what the different macro buttons actually do. And then you have macros for this add-on that are numbered 1 through 12, and you need to set a keybind to whichever ones of those that you want to use. I'm only actually using like 8 of them so far, but you might use them all. So map a key to, and remember what key is mapped to what macro button. You might actually just make it, I've started with 4 because I use my 1, 2, 3 keys for other abilities, but it might make logical sense to map, you know, the 1 to macro 1, the 2 to macro 2. It's up to you. You can map them to anything. But map the keys to the macros and to toggle the macro window. And then to set up a gear set, if you go into your abilities tab or your skills tab, what you would do is set yourself to the weapon that you want to set a macro key for and put all the skills on it that you want to have that key load. And then up here you see Wicked's Outfitter Skills. Type a name for that profile and then save it. And as you can see, I've got some ones here I've already saved. Once you have saved a profile name, you want to hit that key that you bound for the macro interface, which is what you see here. And then you want to pick which macro that you want to actually load this skill set. And remember, you bound specific keys to each one of those. For me, I bound macro number 1 to the key 4, which may be counterintuitive. But whichever macro you want to bind, you right-click and edit. And that gives you this option here. And basically you need to choose here on the left whether this is going to be an emote macro, an add-on macro. Mainly you're going to pick either gear or skill macro. Gear would be if the macro is going to change your gear layout, and skills is going to be for your skill bars. So I'm going to choose skills for this one because I'm doing a skill set layout, and then you hit this button and it will actually let you choose the profile name that you created up here. So I would pick 4 and then hit set and then hit save, and then that has actually bound that key, whatever key I bound to that macro button, to load this entire gear layout. So just a quick example of how that works is I've got a couple of different keybind macros for my restoration staff. I'm leveling restoration staff, so I always, when I go to turn in a quest, I swap to my second weapon, which is the restoration staff, because I want it to get the quest experience. And I'm also leveling a bunch of skills. What you see right there is my kind of standard leveling layout for resto staff. Now I have it bound that I can hit a button before I turn in a quest, and it will load all of the skills that I am currently working on leveling to that bar, so that when I turn in the quest, they get the experience and will level as well. And then I can just hit another button, swap right back to my standard set. If you hit a button to load a set of skills for, say, your weapon 2, the skill bind macros are weapon slot specific. So I have, like I just showed you, those skill layouts for my resto staff, which is weapon 2. If I hit that button while I'm on weapon 1, it's going to give me this message over here in chat. Weapon 1 is currently loaded. You need to swap bars to continue, because I just hit the button to load skills for weapon 2. So, but when I switch to weapon 2, it will load out those skills, and then I can swap them back. So incredibly useful add-on to have, and I definitely recommend it. Works exactly the same for gear. I won't go into that too much, but basically the same idea. You load the gear you want to use, give it a profile name and save it. Go back into the macro editor, pick a macro, edit it, choose gear, pick the profile, and there you have it. So that is Wicked's Outfitter, and it is indispensable for an adaptive game like ESO, so definitely get that one. Right, next up is the Advanced Filters add-on by Ingenious Clown, and there's not really much to configure with this one. Basically what it does is when you go into your inventory or to your bank or guild bank, it adds a second row of icons for subcategories of all the main categories here. So I'm at the bank. I'm going to go ahead and deposit a bunch of junk I've collected. If this is what the game shows you by default, these are all the main categories. Now with this add-on, if you go into, say, materials, you get this second row here, which will actually let you show just what you have in each of these categories, say blacksmithing, clothing, woodworking, all your alchemy ingredients. This and you know, stones for crafting, racial style stones. Any of the subcategories. Same thing for weapons and armor. I don't think I actually have any though. But basically when you're going to offload stuff into your bank or to pick stuff up from the bank on your crafting alts, like if you have an alchemy alt, it makes things so much easier. You can just hit the respective subcategory and just dump all the things. Say I wanted to get rid of all my alchemy ingredients. Instead of going through this whole list here and, okay, I want to drop this, I want to drop this, you just do it all at once. Just go into alchemy, just like that. You can get rid of all of a particular category at once and pick them all up at once on your crafting alts. It just makes things so much easier. So I definitely recommend you pick up Advanced Filters by Ingenious Clown. Okay, so while we're at the trade house here, I'm going to go ahead and cover the next one, which is Batman Store Filter by TRTT. And this is just a really simple add-on. It makes you almost wonder why this wasn't here when the game shipped. But all this basically does is when you go to the material section, and it may actually do it for some of the other categories. I think it's just material, actually, that it does. When you go to the materials category, it adds subcategories that you can search for in your guild stores. So say I just wanted to search for, I don't know, any blacksmithing ingredient. Actually, booster would be the things used for improvements. Say I was looking for a blacksmithing temper, I could choose blacksmithing booster, legendary, and hit search. And of course, this particular guild doesn't actually have any. But okay, so I'll just look for blacksmithing materials. That's like ore, ingots. I'm sure they have some of those of any quality. And that will actually let you search your guild store for just the specific type of item that you're looking for. Incredibly useful and amazing that wasn't in the game by default. But as you can see, there's tons of options. You can search for motifs, cooking recipes, style materials. I think that's like racial stones. Woodworking improvement materials, woodworking materials, raw materials, provisioning cooking ingredients, alchemy stuff. You can search for just any of those and not have to pour through page after page of useless crap just to see the stuff you're looking for. That to me is absolutely essential. So I recommend definitely you get that. It's Batman Store Filter by TRTT. And next up is the Guild Store Search add-on by Zeveran, or Zeveran. It basically, when you go to your guild store, you can hit Guild Store Search. You'll see this button here. That will bring up the interface. You can actually tell it that you want to search all of your guild stores. And what you basically have to do is the first time that you load this thing up, each time you log in, when you go to the guild store, you have to hit set it to all and hit retrieve. And that will actually take, depending on how big your guild stores are, up to 2 to 5 minutes. It basically goes through everything that's for sale on all of your guild stores and puts it into a searchable database that you can actually search for things by what they're actually called. Like if I wanted to search for, you know, floral fruit basket, I don't know, you just type the name in and search for it and it'll find that specific thing. I'm going to actually pause this because I don't want to let it wait, but I want to show you how it actually works. So okay, so after it's done searching, it's going to come up and say it found so many items from all your guilds. And at that point, you can actually text search for whatever item you're looking for. You can actually select individual guilds or just search all of them. I just leave it on all. And I guess let's say I was looking for a motif. Alright, I would just type that in. Be careful not to hit retrieve again, because it's going to go and search again, and that can take a while. You just type in what you're looking for, hit find match, and it's going to find you all of the motifs in this particular example. It'll sort them in ascending order of how expensive they're selling for, and so you just kind of scroll down and look for the one you're after. I'll say go to the bottom and say I was looking for one of the more high-end ones, and I don't really see any of the high-end ones for a good price. But say I wanted to buy that, I would hit go to page next to the one that I wanted to buy. It will actually take you right to the page that it's on. You can scroll down and look at the price, and there it is. And if I wanted to, I could just double click on that and buy it. So that is a way to use the guild stores like an auction house, which should have been in the game, but isn't. But this add-on makes it possible. So guild store search by Severan is absolutely on my essential mod list. Okay, so here we're going to cover Luminary Trade Sales History by Awesome Billy. And this add-on is basically like a history of all the things you've sold in your guild stores. You can actually show all the things that have sold, period, in your guild stores. And then maybe the coolest feature is it'll actually pop up an alert when something sells, no matter where you are in the game. The options for it are pretty straightforward. I leave enable mail and trade house alerts both off. You can turn those on, but basically it just brings up the interface automatically whenever you open mail or a guild store. And personally, I just prefer to open it with the button that shows up in the guild store. So I leave both of those off. Price before cut, items sold, alerts, both definitely want to leave on. Guild update frequency is 200 seconds by default. I actually turned it down to 60 seconds, so it will actually check to see if it needs to tell you something was sold once a minute, so you can get more up-to-date notification if anything's sold. I didn't notice any lag changing it down from 200 to 60, but if you do notice any kind of interface lag or anything, go ahead and clock that back up to 200, which is the default. The rest of these options you pretty much leave at the default, which I believe these are all the defaults. And so what the add-on actually looks like is if you go to your guild store, you can actually hit Luminary Trade, and that will give you the option to show just your sales, and it shows the most recent at the top. Author is working. You can move it around, but as you can see, it's a little bigger than the space available for it. It's not bad, but the author is working on changing this to be resizable so that you can actually get it scrunched down a little bit. But you can see all of your sales, which is useful for tracking what's selling on what guild banks, and you can also look at all guild sales, which is just a ton of information. But if you're really meticulous about tracking trades to see what stuff is selling for, you can actually pour through that information and find out what is selling for how much on average on what of your trade houses, and use that information to help you when you're posting your next sale. But again, the coolest thing is, and I'm not going to be able to really simulate this, when you're out in the world, you'll get these alerts saying, you know, such and such sold for this much up in your alert section. And that I just really miss that feature from other MMOs, where you can see immediately when something you had sold. So that is Luminary Trade Sales History by Awesome Billy. So you should check that one out as well. So another really cool add-on, this is mostly if you are a guild master or you have full access to your guild bank. This one is called Roomba by Roomba Guild Bank Stacker by Woban. And this one, I don't have a ton of non-stacked stuff in there, but I tried to put a bunch in there just for the sake of the example. You can see I'm using 228 out of 500 slots. And that's because every time you put something in a guild bank, it doesn't automatically stack, and you don't have the ability to stack stuff in the guild banks. You have to take it out, put it in your inventory, stack it, put it back in. A lot of the time there's lag, and the guild bank won't let you do it immediately, or won't come up immediately, and it takes forever. The way Roomba works, you go into your controls and you set a keybind to run Roomba. Right now I have mine on F4, and when you hit it, and it will count everything that's in there and automatically pull it out and stack it and put it back in for you. And you can see the inventory use just going down as it does that. I think it was at like 228. I sometimes will hit 400 and something out of 500 in my guild bank just because people put plump worms. You know, freaking plump. There's like 15 stacks of plump worms. It's like, why? You know, you can run the Roomba and it will actually put them all into stack. You don't have to sit there and take them all out one at a time. Very cool add-on. That's Roomba Guild Bank Stacker by Woban. Another really pretty amazing add-on for, it's not really crafting per se, just in general for stuff, is Harvin's Stack Split Slider by Harvin. Basically, when you right-click a stack of stuff, you have an option to split the stack. That's part of the default game, but normally you have to click a left and a right arrow or hold it down, and it takes forever to get to how much you want. This add-on gives you a slider. I can't believe this wasn't in the game by default, but you can just instantly select how many of an item you want to make the stack, and it will split the stack into what you select. It's just an incredibly powerful and simple and obvious add-on that should have been there, and is something you can get with an add-on. So definitely recommend Harvin's Stack Split Slider by Harvin. And another crafting add-on that I use, and this goes along with the stack splitter, is Multicraft by Donut Enigma. And basically what this one lets you do is very similar to the stack split add-on. If I want to, say, craft more than one of a particular item, but I don't want to sit there hitting R every single time, I can actually now have this slider down at the bottom, and it will be, it's based on what you have selected, will be the minimum and max, so you can actually slide it over to create the maximum number with what you have selected. Obviously I have 2 racial stones here. I'm going to only be able to do 2, even though I have lots of that particular thread. But if I select, say, this one, I should be able to make 6, and if you hit go, it just really quickly bang, 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 bangs those out. And that's really useful for if you're doing crafting swaps for deconstruct, since you get so much more crafting experience when you deconstruct someone else's. You know, you say, okay, I'm going to make 10. You set it to 10, hit go, it'll crank them out. You don't have to sit there and micromanage hitting the R over and over again. So definitely another essential one. That's Multicraft by Donut Enigma. And bringing up the actual crafting interface, another really good add-on is called Nog's Simple Crafting Tooltip by Nagaruk, and that's what you see right here. And basically that takes all of your current gear and gives you a really upfront tooltip that you don't have to hover over to see. You can actually click on individual gear items to compare with the tooltip of whatever it is that you're making. And that's just, to me, it comes in handy. You may or may not use it, but I personally find that to be very helpful when I'm comparing gear sets to make sure I've got the right sets to match with what I currently have, and be able to switch real easy and have them both up while I'm going through over here, and not have to have my mouse hovering over here, which goes away as soon as you come over here to try and select the stuff. So Nog's Simple Crafting Tooltip by Nagaruk. And another really good add-on for crafting, this is very similar to the Multicraft add-on, is Rapid Chant by AddOn. And this basically, combined with the Multicraft, which works for chanting as well, it takes out the phase of enchanting where you speak the words of each one of these things and highlights them. It just makes enchanting multiple glyphs really, really fast. So for example, here I've got just some simple things I don't mind burning, and I've got the Multicraft set up here, so I'll go ahead and set that to 2. And with Rapid Chant installed, if you hit craft, bam, bam, just like that. And you can do lots and lots and lots of glyphs in a short amount of time with that. So Rapid Chant by AddOn, I definitely recommend that one as well. Another random add-on, and I'm probably going to do terrible with this name because I think it's probably French or something, SousChef. S-O-U-S, I'm sure that has some significance to the genre of being chef. Provisioning helper. Again, this one's also by Woban, Crazy Dutch Guy, and CatCat42 all worked on this one. And it just gives you a lot of really useful information for provisioning, for cooking materials. As you can see, it's showing the tier of the particular ingredient over here. If you mouse over it, it shows you that it's used in any recipes that you know that it's used in. It will also show if you have a recipe. I don't think I actually do. Here we go. Who knows it? Down at the bottom there you can see that. Ingredients will be gray if you don't have any in your bank or your inventory. If you do, it'll show how many you can make with the ingredients that you have. Required levels, all kinds of useful information about anything related to cooking. And it does it in a way that's not really cumbersome and intrusive. So I definitely recommend that one as well. That's SousChef by Woban, Crazy Dutch Guy, and CatCat42. So into some of the crafting add-ons. There's a ton that are really useful for crafting. So first one I'm going to show is called Crafting Material Level Display by Marik. And basically what that does is, if you look at the tooltip there, it adds the level range of items that can be created by a particular crafting material that you mouse over. So for example, Crush Fibers make Veteran 1 to Veteran 3 light armors. That's just kind of useful to know what sort of level of materials that you are working with without actually having to visit a crafting station. So Crafting Material Level Display by Marik, I do recommend that one. So there's a lot of add-ons that are kind of less obvious in the interface, but also very useful. One in particular, it's called Audio Control by Gallomatic, and I don't know if you've ever been in the bank. Right now it's kind of late, so not too many people here right now, but when there's a ton of people at the bank, it seems like sometimes everyone and their brothers got their little monkeys out, and they're all just hollering, and it's obnoxious. And sometimes if you're in a quest hub and there's a lot of NPCs around, they repeat the same thing. Sometimes you just want to kind of silence the ambient noise a little bit. This add-on basically gives you controls to map keybinds to all the different sounds in the game. See if I can find it here. Here we go. So right now I don't really worry about the master volume because I like to leave the music on, but I have 4 keybinds to turn off ambient effects, which is monkeys, barking things, everything like that, just random torches and stuff. Steps is people's feet, so footsteps, and then dialogue is what the NPCs are saying. And basically I can just roll my hand. Let's see, let's go over so you can actually see it. You can't really hear anything right now, but I can just roll my hand over those 4 buttons and it will turn everything but the sound off, and but the music off. And if I want to turn them back on, I just roll my fingers over those 4 buttons again, and it remembers the volume level you had for those different volume settings when it toggles it back on. So if you had, say, effects at 80% and you toggle them off, when you toggle them back on, it's back at 80%, which is really cool. So that is Audio Control by Gallomatic. Another really simple one that I consider essential is called Best Friends by AddOn. And this one, I don't know if you're as annoyed as I am by the fact that every time a friend logs in and out, you get that obnoxious yellow text that makes your chat show up. And even if you add custom filters, like I have a guild tab which only shows guild chat, and a queue tab which is a quiet tab that won't show anything except whispers, that still shows up. That stupid yellow text when anybody logs in and out in your friends list shows up, and you can't hide it. It makes your entire chat window show up even if you're in quiet tab. It's obnoxious. So Best Friends by AddOn, basically what that does is it prevents log on log off notification from showing up in your chat at all. Instead, it will actually show up in your notification area where you get notices like when your armor is broke and stuff. And with Wicked's interface, you can actually, completely turn off notifications. So I do leave it on. It's just you don't even really notice it when it's not in the chat. So definitely recommend that one. It's just one of those little simple add-ons for the sake of sanity. Best Friends by AddOn. Another really cool one. This one is related to your key bindings. In the video that I link in the description, which shows how to download my PhinixUI, which sets up all the settings that you're seeing here, one of the things that doesn't carry over is all your key bindings when you're trying to copy add-on settings over to another character. So there's actually an add-on. It's called Binder by AddOn, and what this will do is it lets you, with a simple command, save all of your current key bindings to a profile. For example, I can type /binder save, and I'll just call it main. And if I switch over to the actual chat window, it will let you know it saved 81 key bindings to a set called main. And now if I were to log into one of my other characters and do /binder load main, it's going to load those 81 key bindings to any other character. So basically, if you're as annoyed as I am every time you create an alt, having to go in and set up, okay, what's my jump, what's my roll, what's my map, if you don't want to have to do that every single time you make an alt, get Binder by AddOn, save a profile, and just get used to that command. So it's really easy, /binder load main, and then you load all your key bindings for every single character that you got. Definitely an essential add-on. Another pretty essential mod relates to mail. This one's called Luminary Don't Send Gold Accidentally by Awesome Billy. This relates to a known bug in the game, and they'll probably fix it eventually, at least I would hope they would. But basically the gist of it is, if you send somebody something, and there's basically a video or more information about this on the author's page on ESOUI.com, but say I COD someone some random thing for 1,000 gold, right, and I send that off to somebody. That's all well and good. They pay me 1,000 gold, and all's right with the world. Well, I go to send a new message, right? Right now, obviously, you can't see it because I've got the add-on installed, but without the add-on, it defaults when you send a new message to send gold, and that's fine if it's 0, but the bug in the game will actually keep the value in the gold field the same as the last message you sent that was not 0. So if I COD'd something for 1,000 and then I went to send a message to some random person, and I didn't pay attention, I could very well accidentally send 1,000 gold to the next random person I send a mail to. This add-on will prevent that by every time you go to your send, zeroing out the gold value. So it's kind of just a easy reassurance to know that you're not accidentally mailing your money away. So that is Luminary Don't Send Gold Accidentally by Awesome Billy. This next one is really cool for people that like to RP, or just people that don't really like ZeniMax's decision to use your account name for guild chat. As you can see here in my guild roster, I've got it actually shows your @account name, and when you're talking in guild chat, it will show you that's the name that will show of whoever's talking. If you mouse over in your guild roster, you can see what the character that they're actually logged in is, but when they talk in guild chat, all you see is their account name. So this next add-on is, let's see, it's called PNames by Putty, and it's incredibly simple. All it does is make it so that when you talk in guild chat, the name that shows up for the person talking is actually their character name that they're currently logged in as, and not their @account name. Just makes RP way cooler. People come up with these really neat sounding names, and you talk in guild chat, and it's all @something or other. So I definitely, even if you aren't into RP, recommend you check out PNames by Putty. So the last add-on I want to cover really briefly here is JoviX's add-on settings transfer tool. At the beginning of the video, I did mention that I was going to see if I could put together a package to download that would let you set up your interface like what you see in the video after you've downloaded the mods. I have gotten that working, and this add-on really helps with that. Basically, after you have gotten the interface set up the way that you like with one character, this add-on will actually let you transfer those settings over to all of your other characters. Very, very cool. So as you can imagine, combined with the binder add-on that lets you transfer all of your key bindings, that makes life so much easier trying to set up alts. You can basically just do it with the click of a button instead of having to redo it over and over again. So that is Joviex add-on settings transfer tool. Definitely get that installed before you move on to the next video that shows you how to get your interface set up with PhinixUI the way you see it in the video. So those are all of the add-ons that I currently use for the Elder Scrolls Online. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I was actually successful in getting these packaged into a template, which I have another video linked in the description. If you follow that, it will walk you step by step through how to get those applied to your character so that your interface, after you install all these add-ons, will look just like what you saw in the video. And then you can take it from there and customize anything as you see fit. A big thanks go out to the authors of all the add-ons. If you enjoy their work, it wouldn't hurt to stop by ESOUI.com and just leave them a comment. Tell them, hey, this was awesome. I really appreciated it. Maybe drop them some in-game gold or buy them a beer or something might be nice. So again, if you have any questions about any of the add-ons or how to get them set up or anything, go ahead and leave those, and I will do the best I can to answer any questions you have. And I hope all these awesome add-ons improve your experience with the Elder Scrolls Online, and I will see you out there. Peace.